I've always told people like earning your black belt isn't the end of something. It's your right to enter in. It's your entrance.
Hmm.
It's not your exit. Like when you get a black belt, people think I'm pretty good. You really don't know
No,
anything
you
anymore.
understand the basic fundamentals.
You just barely got it
Yeah,
now.
100%.
And some days you go, wow, this thing makes absolute sense.
Today's guest is John Saintignon, a college basketball phenom who is the all-time scorer. And I am telling you, today's episode is going to be absolutely amazing because you are a life changer, and you're an author, and you're a public speaker. And it all came down to you being this college phenom with basketball and coming down to less than 24 hours to make a decision on how you were going to pivot your life, whether it was going professional or going overseas and train and playing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being a guest. I cannot wait to dive in and get some of these nuggets as a public speaker, because you have this wealth of knowledge and a story that's phenomenal. And so thank you for being a guest today, John.
Hey, thank you, Blue. I really appreciate you taking the time to even reach out to me. However, I can help any listener is certainly something I look absolutely forward to. So let's get this rolling, big
Oh,
guy.
I love it. Well, I am awful at basketball, and I knew that at a very early age. Is that something before you became the all-time scorer in college? Like, is that something that you loved or that you saw yourself doing? Like, how did you get introduced to basketball?
Yeah, I just absolutely loved it. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, had the chance to play all the sports like basketball and baseball and football, and I loved them all. But there was just a different speed and pace to this, and it re- I just loved the feeling of shooting the ball and seeing it go through the net and the camaraderie with teams up front and players and just you name it, and it was at that time a culture of playing outside. Loved it. All you needed was a ball, and you didn't even really even need anyone else. So I got in an early age, luckily, that I felt there was always someone there to help see something else in me too, and allowed me to grow along with them.
Hmm. Well, I love that. Did when you became like going through college and becoming the all-time scorer, like how did that start to go to your head? Did you think that you were really good, or were there other people who were better than you and like you didn't see it that way?
Yeah, no, not at all. I was extremely humble. I knew exactly what I was doing. Uh, but then again, not really. I had blinders on. I just tried I learned from coaches, and they changed the way I viewed what I did. There are certain guys that do workouts, right? And that's part of like the culture of athletics today is workout. I was doing them, but I had specific coaches that changed. What they did was they used a term called discipline, and it was different. So for example, I got introduced to Coach John Wooden because I had some success and fame, and so I get to be a coach at his a counselor at his one of his basketball camps, and we become dear friends. Well, there's a shooting demonstration that's going to happen, and this particular coach has two sons that he does these shooting demonstrations with, and one of them is ill that day, and he asked Coach Wooden would someone join in, and he suggested me. I had no idea what I was entering, but boy, it was fantastic to be coached in front of 400 players, who were sitting in the audience, and to put on a demonstration for them. And afterwards, I was asked if I wanted to work out with them, and that coach, his name is Luther Whitsitt. He changed the way I was doing things. I was no longer going into the gym just to make baskets. I was trying to make them all net.
Mhm.
And so that took discipline. It changed the way I viewed it, like the trajectory of the ball. It was intellectualism that was coming into just shooting now. How do you get the ball to go higher so that the cylinder, so that the ball can go in the cylinder easier? It was mind blowing, and yet intense, because those all net wasn't once in a while. It's three times in a row kind of thing. and now you have pressure on top of it. So changed the way I was doing things, and there were better players than me. When if you've ever met me, I'm not 6'8", I'm not dunking the ball, I'm not doing all that, but there were guys like Reggie, who was at UCLA, Reggie Miller. There were other guys who were doing great things too. But this is in the era of, there's not television really that's out there. There's not that type of media that's out there yet. So what I knew what I was doing was, because my coaching staff was saying, you need to put in points for us to have a chance. Everybody had a role. But I'm telling you, Blue, I was concerned about the accolades that came my way, because I didn't rebound the ball. I couldn't outlet it to myself. I needed everybody to do their thing.
Yeah.
And I was worried about, how are they going to think? I just didn't want to be ostracized because I'm leading the country in scoring, kind of thing. If they came along with me, it was going to be a glorious journey. If they were not, then I felt like it's not worth it, because they're not just my teammates. They're my college buddies too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Is when you were experiencing that success and people started coming up to you, and maybe scouts or other coaches, did you have aspirations to go to the NBA? Because there was a point where you had 24 hours to make a decision of what you were going to do in front of all the scouts and in front of all the coaches. Like, did you have aspirations to go to the NBA, or was it just something, the next outlet?
Yeah, it's every kid's dream. But again, where I was coming from, where I was always told, you want to play baseball or soccer. It was a little bit directed that way. Like, guys like myself didn't play basketball. There's no one
because of your height or what?
Maybe that, and my ethnicity. It just wasn't. There's no significant role model at that time.
Sure.
And so but this is what I love. And so I never really thought, to be quite honest, that I would even get a college opportunity. And then when I have that opportunity in college, and I'm at the level I'm at, you really take it for granted, like if professional basketball is even in the mix. But because I had led the country in scoring, it gave me that window of opportunity to play at the Los Angeles Summer Pro League. And that's kind of like the NBA Summer Pro League now that's in Las Vegas. It was always held here in Los Angeles. And it was remarkable. Strenuous training 2 times a day, games, in front of large audiences. And I was fortunate. I was doing well enough that a coach came out of the stands, asked me that day, would you want to go play, but you have to take off tomorrow, kind of thing. It really was a 24-hour window decision time. And of course, it's, what other option do I have at that point? Like, yeah, absolutely. So I knew, as the poem of Frost, there's 2 roads, which one am I going to choose? That's the one I chose,
Okay, so you're given this opportunity. You have to make a decision, not an ultimatum, but you have to make a decision what road you're going to choose, left or right. And you go home and you get some news from your mom, because our episode today isn't just about basketball, and that is a stepping stone for you. However, it's more about the human need to belong and to know where you came from in order to know where you're going to go. And I know that's what you speak on. That's what you wrote a book about. And so you're at this pivotal point where you decide you are going to go overseas, and you go home and you get some news from your mom.
Yeah. So when I was 10 years old, I was told that I was adopted. And at that point, I didn't know what that meant. And so I remember walking outside with a baseball glove, going to throw with a neighbor of mine. And I tell him, and he's like, yeah, okay. Like he doesn't know what that means either. I remember going to school and saying it to my teachers and getting 2 two differing opinions. One would be very happy, oh, that's fantastic, you have some loving parents, and others that would be sad about the situation, like, oh, that's like if it was bad that I was given away.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to digest that. And I keep going through high school through that, and and all the time at this particular moment when I'm left there to decide, all I care about is I have this contract, I need to get on this airplane, I need to pack. And my mom walks into the room and she's crying, and I'm thinking it's because I'm leaving, which it
Yeah.
is, but she also has this piece of paper saying, uh that in this piece of paper that I'm going to give you is your birth mother's name if you wish to go find her. And
Wow.
of course not, I'm not going to do that. I cannot, for a number of reasons, and I'm sure your audience will understand. The would have said, yeah, give me that, would have crushed her,
Yeah.
and even more so, while I was curious, I really wasn't ready for that. It wasn't in my forethought to go find out who birth parents are. It didn't mean anything to me at that time. I'm just wondering, can I play professional basketball, and where am I going?
Mhm.
And it's a brand new experience for me. So that's all it really came about for me.
Okay. So you decide to take that piece of paper and just put it aside.
I didn't even take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't take it. I did not want to crush her, and that was it. And I just left it alone.
I can't even picture. I remember my uncle told me I was adopted and I believed him. And I was like, oh, my parents aren't really, but he was joking. But I can't even imagine the emotion that you were thinking. Like, I'm assuming you're 17 or 18 at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
Oh no,
Well,
you're out of college.
no,
So
I'm out of college.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm an adult. I'm
Mhm.
fully aware of everything that she's telling me, and uh,
You want to
but
go
it
play basketball.
that's all I care about. I just have this one contract. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go play basketball. What
Okay.
else is out there?
Yeah. Okay. So you get on this airplane and you take off and you play professional ball in Spain. And
Yep.
you basically you're finding it your legs underneath you and you become you're great there. But do you have any as you're increasing your career overseas, like did you want to come back and play here? Did you want to continue on? Like what did you start thinking at that age?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I go to Barcelona and I'm very happy. I got this first opportunity and I'm introduced to the rigors of professional basketball. It's no longer college. At that point, no one cared about what I was studying. Uh, Girlfriends, family members, they don't care about all of that. They just care about your performance that day in practice. And it's the same with teammates. While in college, I had teammates, you would go and hang out with them. Professional basketball, we went our separate ways, never saw each other. And so, with that said, at that time of life, our games were 4 games a week. It was rigorous travel schedule, rigorous amount of games. And again, the physicality is different. Today's basketball is really a touch foul type scenario, but back then it was really you had to earn your way. You played very physical,
Hmm.
and I loved it from the aspect of me trying to understand that I'm in control of my own life now. I could do more damage the 20 hours away from the court than I could otherwise. Made a lot of decisions as to whether I went walking in the plaza or not. Lots of things to debate about.
Yeah.
And because I want to perform, and that's exactly it. That was how the coaching staff was just you are here to perform tonight. And
Did that make you love basketball more, or did you start to fall out of love with it?
yeah, I started to fall out of it. Um, it it no longer had the same joy. It was rigorous in that sense. Like, here's our opponent. This is what we're gonna do. We hit the bus. You go on the plane. But it was just that. It was a business.
Hmm.
And and that's attributed maybe to the times, but maybe to the certain personalities of coaches as well. It doesn't always have to be that way. And as you could tell now in today's game, a lot of coaches have found the psychology different, how
Mhm.
to talk to a professional athlete. And but for me at that time, yeah, that's what it was. And yes, I had every dream. Getting back to your question about playing here in the United States, yeah, everybody wants to play in the NBA, and I did get an opportunity. I got what's called a free agent tryout. Based on my success overseas, a team here called the Chicago Bulls invited me for their free agency tryout.
Uh-huh.
So in 1989, I get this tryout, and I am well ready for it. I am I am training 3 times a day. I'm going to thing I got, and it is amazing. I go to Chicago. It is 3 weeks long because you have to survive the different stages,
Yeah.
and, and you hear the door knock because you're staying in dorms, and if you hear the door knock, that means you're let go,
Oh,
and slowly you start seeing less and less and less players around, and I'm still there. I'm still hanging. And really, it was because I made this conscious effort to say to my respective teammates that I had that week, uh, "You run the floor. I'll give you the basketball, and then if it comes back to me, then I know I can shoot, I can score." But I wanted them to be successful. But I also didn't want to be dribbling the ball in the backcourt and get it taken and then get dunked on and then have the camera go back and forth like who did that
yeah,
happen to?
yeah, yeah.
So they didn't understand that. They just thought I was this marvelous teammate that was looking for them to make the team kind of thing.
Mm.
So it actually benefited me. Uh, I did not make the team. I got to the last player cut for that position with BJ Armstrong out of Iowa at that time.
Yeah.
He was remarkable. There's no question about it. And I had no regrets. I gave it all I could. I got there. I got to city. I got to see, I got to be there with the veterans. I got to meet people. And I had no regrets. And that's really what I wanted to do in the game of basketball, is have no regrets in it and just take it for what it was and keep going as best I could.
Well, I think that moves us. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
After a car accident, insurance companies will take every shot they can to leave you with nothing. But at Dubin Law, the game isn't over until you get the money you deserve. So call Dubin Law and add us to your roster today.
Going as best I could.
Well, I think that moves us into our next chapter of like what I want to dive into, and that is like living a life without regret and resentment or wishing that you had done something what you had not.
Yeah.
And it's you taking this experience as a player, falling out of love of what the game became as a business, and then being able to translate that into being a coach for the youth and for the kids. And kids coming up into college. And so obviously you took this experience, you did not make the NBA, you gave it your best. And I love that you did that. And you know in your heart that you did that, because that's all you can do. When we tell our daughter that all the time, it's like, do your best, but at the same time, it's like what your best is what's going to be your best. And so if you aren't as good as the other person, it doesn't matter that you just gave your best and you have no resentment. And I love that, John. That's so beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so you took this knowledge and experience and you're like, I can coach. Transition me into the coaching now. So you're coaching all over the world too, with different teams in different countries and learning different languages and cultures. Like, that was random.
Yeah. So it started out. So I come back. I finished my career in professional basketball. I come back. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I even go to law school. I'm thinking that's what I want to be, and then realize that's not it. And I decide. One of my college coaches says there's this position open in a high school in San Diego that he's going to be honest with me. No one wants it. They're no good, and I'm going to try. I'm going to take it. And I go all in for it. I call Coach Wooden and I ask him for a letter of recommendation to call on my behalf. I'm approaching it as best I could. He calls. The school says, yeah. They hang up on him because it's him. And but lo and behold, yes, I verified, that it was him. That's who he hung up on, and that I was interested in the job. Luckily, again, I don't take this job by knowing like it's just me. I'm brand new. I'm leery of the fact that I don't know if I'm able to translate my knowledge to someone else.
Yeah.
And I'm a little nervous about that. I have a dear friend that I had played against and then ended up playing with, named Coach Williams, and he joins me. And it was a comfort in that, knowing that I had someone else to kind of tandem with this effort.
Mm-hmm.
We're both brand new at it. We don't know, and we just try to show them how to play
and have fun.
And we're learning the same as them, but they did not know how to play at that stage of their career. They didn't know what it was like. So the majority of our practice was just learning 3-on-3 concepts, just learn that. And then they evolved. They became much better, and so we ended up winning something like 10 of our last games, which was a miracle because we were getting beat left and right earlier. And then exponentially it grew from there. Now we start getting the talent now comes in. It just changed. We become successful high school coaches. We win in California. We win the title eventually. And it marked a change for us because my wife and I were like living in San Diego. It's costly at the time, and
Still is.
Commute was, still is, and the commute was rough, and we decide maybe we're going to go to Tucson, Arizona, where I was. There was a high school job there, and we went there, and we changed, and that was the first change. Do very well there, and it leads to now another opportunity, and the opportunity is to go to Oregon State University in the Pac-10 conference. It's a dream, that's all I saw growing up was University of Arizona versus UCLA, Oregon State, Gill Coliseum, you name it. But I am thinking in myself that if we take that move, that's it. That's a different journey now. This is now the world of college athletics. Could be fired tomorrow, but a part of me was like, you just have to, man. You have to see. And so we did. After that particular journey of going to Oregon State, I had been speaking. I had been taking speaking engagements around the world that no one wanted. So one was in Colombia. And at that time, no one wanted to go to Colombia because all they thought about was cartels and Medellin cartel and danger. And I went, and it was remarkable. I don't know, 400 coaches around and just giving them all the knowledge that I possibly could, but it opened a window of opportunity for me to see something else. And from that relationship, I ended up speaking in the Dominican Republic, and from that relationship in Mexico and different places because of that relationship that I took, or that step that I had taken. But now when Oregon State opportunity was nearing an end, I get an opportunity to coach professional basketball in Mexico because of that speaking that I had taken. Before they remembered, they offered me a head coaching job there. And again, I have a remarkable wife, and at the time we have two sons, and this is a new journey, into the world of professional basketball, living in another country. And the whole thing was that in my whole life experience as a dad, I wanted what could I give my sons that was different? You always wonder, like, what is it you're going to give them? And in this particular situation, it was to give them an experience that is not inside of a book. It's going to be different. Will they know it's going to benefit them? Not necessarily at that time, but eventually they're going to know, like, a different language, a different culture, and they're going to see things for themselves and judge people for themselves and not have them be told how things are.
I love that. My wife and I, she works as with the airlines, and one of our biggest things with our kids is introducing them to different cultures and different
Yeah.
countries, and they've been on more flights than I ever did, right?
Yeah,
And it's just like for them seeing what first world problems are, third world countries are like, and what poor really is, and how
yes,
grateful we should be and appreciate the life that we have, and
yeah,
the opportunities that are here. And just knowing that, like, most people live outside of well, everyone lives within that 15-mile radius, but it's like what's going on right here, right now, is going on somewhere other in another country, and they're living their life, but they may be less fortunate or have less.
that's right.
They might even have more. And it's introducing our kids to be able to do that and just to learn languages. And I was
Yeah,
blessed because my dad introduced me to foreign languages, and we would always spend our time in Mexico. And I did a homestay in Mexico, and I worked
right.
at a dive shop, and it was like that also introduced my love to Japanese, because the Japanese and Spanish are the same vowel system, so it's an easier language to learn. But I loved martial arts. I loved, like, I wanted to be a ninja. So it was like my ability and my desire to grow and learn and assimilate to different countries and cultures. It was just phenomenal. So if you were able to do that for your boys, that's amazing, and that's what I want to be
Yeah.
able to do with our kids.
Yeah, that's all. That's a lot of it. Really, what it was about was to give them different languages, different cultures, different ways of seeing things. So that journey is has led me to be in 9 different countries. We we even went to the Middle East, and within Europe and Asia, and in the Middle East, that was another thing where what's I got a job offer to go to the Kingdom of Bahrain, and I had never heard of it, and here I am. I think I know the world, but I never knew this little island existed.
Yeah.
And now it's do you take the chance again? Well, my gosh, it's the Middle East, and the conflict of people saying, Sunni, Shia, what's that, and I went and I had to see for myself how it was, and it was remarkable. And I have, again, my family joins me, and I wanted them to, they assimilate into schools. They're going to meet people, and I wanted them to not ever judge people without, from someone else's perspective. You decide how somebody treated you,
Mm.
and you decide there. And so the boys had friends that were Sunni, and the boys had friends that were Shiite. What's the difference? You certain mannerisms, but how did they treat you? And you are also going to be reflective of how they see an American from this
Yes.
point forth as well.
Yeah, it's that
And
first impression, because
yeah,
a lot of them don't even know an American, right? They just see what's
yeah.
on TV, or they see the Mickey Mouse T-shirt that somebody walks around with.
And at that time, let me tell you, boy, it was remarkable and sad. I had a 5-year contract, but year 2 into my contract, the Arab Spring comes. And so there was an upheaval in Tunisia, overthrowing the president, and then the same in Egypt. Every place was having something where they were trying to overthrow. And in Bahrain, we had finished playing, and they wanted to have their little protest as well. And it turned into a bigger thing. It turned into a big protest, and it turned into this movement. And the people thought that they were going to have a voice and monarchy, listen to them, but that wasn't the case. But really, for us, I wanted my sons to be on the ground. I wanted them to see what 100,000 people protesting looks like peacefully. I want them to see what they're going for. That it's a struggle for freedom. They think they want a voice, just so they can see what that was like, and also that when history rewrites itself, they can say, no, that's not exactly how I remember it.
Yeah.
I was there. And sure enough, getting back to what I said, giving them something else besides, what the books are. My eldest son gets into USC, and there's a political discussion in one of his classes. He raises his hand, tells the professor, and the professor's like, you know, you tell us, because he literally said,
Yeah.
it's not how I remember it. I was there. And it changes the way the narrative was said. It
100%.
let them know the Arab Spring was not against Americans. I was there. That was nothing for us. It was their own internal struggle to have a voice and to have some choice in life later, what they wanted.
Well, and I agree with that, because when you experience something firsthand, it is way different than when you read it on the news or you see it on TikTok or something like that.
Yes.
And it hits home more, and it's authentic. So it's like you're able to express your opinions, and maybe that is what will help people move, right? Like it will help change people's perception and your mindset based off of that, of if you have a real connection to something. And it sounds like that's what you did. But you also did that with your coaching and with your playing experience and as a public speaker. And so you're taking all of this knowledge and you're sharing it with all of these people. What is one thing that you would tell audiences now to find their one thing? Like, what is it that you speak about that changes and or transforms that audience based off of all of the experience you've gotten from your years?
I think it's a multitude of different things. It's called like finding your purpose. But what is your purpose? You really don't know. Many people don't know until later in life what makes you happy, or something makes you want to wake up. I was always told, find your purpose in life, be persistent, and show passion. And so whatever I decided to try, could I stay persistent at it, keep doing it, and have passion that comes along with it? I am fortunate enough, like, for example, to speak in Italy every year. And when I get there, coaches are downtrodden. They're trying to get a level of certification to move up the food chain.
Sure.
And but they're sad. They're down. They've been beaten down a little bit, and I just want them to enjoy, like, what's the passion of it. You can teach a certain thing, but have passion toward it. Let people see that you have mistakes. Stop practice and have some laughter and humor about it. It doesn't have to be so rigid and strict, and so that you go home with the same feeling of it also. You start to lose why you're there. And so I always thought, like, why am I asking the same question over again? What is it I'm here to do? I'm here to help others. I mean, if I can't do that, I don't know exactly what else there is.
Well, and I would add that you want to be a student too. So not only helping others, but then also being a student and letting other people help you. And I think that I know that you study Shorin-ryu karate, and is that something that you've been able to translate with your martial arts background into something that you become as a parent or as a public speaker or as a coach?
Oh, I became a black belt because I wanted my kids to discover their passion. And once they decided that they wanted to be in karate, great. Found a great dojo for them. And once I saw that was their passion and they were going to become black belts, I told them I would do that. And then they would have to teach me.
No way. I love that, John.
So I enter as a white belt at 50 years old, Blue. And you know how that is, man. It's awkward. You're with little kids at times. There's no adults, And meanwhile, saying sensei, to my kids, and bowing to them, and they like to play around with me a little bit, they can give you push-ups and things, and you have to because they're the sensei. And they start, and I'm asking them for help in class because I'm not sure how to do this particular kata. What move is this? And it's fantastic. And I stay in it. I stayed with it. And, I've always told people, like, earning your black belt isn't the end of something. It's your right to enter in. It's your entrance.
Mhm.
It's not your exit. Like when you get a black belt, people think I'm pretty good. You really don't know
No,
anything
you
anymore.
understand the basic fundamentals.
You just barely got it
Yeah,
now.
100%.
And some days you go, wow, this thing makes absolute sense.
Mhm.
Uh, but you become more humble if
Yeah.
by any other way. That's how I become. And so that is another tool that I use, that it is a risk I took at 50 years old. It doesn't take a day or two or a year. It takes four years, to get to the black belt stage. And that's if you're going all
Mhm.
the time and pass your exams and so on. It's rigorous. But I didn't quit.
Well, and
And
that's something that you took throughout your life. You're not quitting, whether that was at basketball or becoming
yeah,
a head coach or moving into the college coaching or going overseas. And I'm assuming that this entire time, because I want to change gears here quickly, is
yeah,
that through this entire time, that piece of paper that your mom gave you is still in the back of your mind at the age of 50.
yeah. Yeah, so it's driving me now. At the age of 50, I decide I'm gonna since I'm in karate now, I got this new and enthusiasm to keep trying different things. So I'm gonna take a DNA exam, see what this is all about. Come back, it's fascinating. I can't believe that it's that detailed and tells me where I'm from. Now I'm very curious. But my mom has since passed away. I don't have a name or a phone number. I have nothing. But I'm going to try to figure out who maybe she talked to get this adoption. And I reach out to different people and they are forthcoming. They remember, they're telling me things. And ultimately, they all say the same thing. You need to go for yourself and see. And I have no idea where I'm going to go. But I do know where I'm from. I'm from a small community called Nuevo Casas Grandes in Chihuahua, Mexico, on the northern side. And I'm going to go and retrace the steps that my parents did. I'm going to take the same car ride. I'm going to go back. I know no one, but I'm going to reach out because of basketball. Someone's going to reach out back to me. And it was a flood of people willing to help me because I just couldn't believe that this guy's coming back. He wants to discover who his family is. There are those that love the puzzle. There are those that just want to help. There's those that understand the strength of family and the reason why it's a draw. And boy, they came out of the woodwork to help. And really, as naive as I was thinking that this name was just going to appear, it doesn't happen that way. I was like, wait a minute, this could be someone's secret. Someone may not be around anymore. What the very
Could open
best
up
I
a
was
can of worms.
I was just thinking the best I is figure out where I'm from. Wow, this is it. Possible hospital, possible doctors that delivered me. How was the system, and be happy with it. And but I became more and more curious, and I went back another for another DNA exam, and added more people to the mix, and finally, I was convinced to take a third DNA exam.
Well,
And
let's stop on that third DNA stand because everything's coming to an end, and you're going to find out. All right, so let's pause for a second because you decide to go back for your third DNA test because you're really wanting to know and you're wanting to search for your birth parents. And I don't know if I would do that. Is it because you want to understand yourself a little bit more? You have nothing to lose, like knowing where you're from. Is that something that you really are feeling like this inside drive? Like, I don't know if I would want to know, John.
yeah, I know there's a lot of people that don't want to know. It's a little bit of 50-50, I guess, in the adopted world. You know, there's a part of me that just needed to feel like if I could find out, even with alive or dead, at least know where I'm from and have some sort of calmness to my quest.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to know where I was, who possibly I came from. It's not for everyone. There are many that don't want to do that.
Well,
because they feel like
did you reach out to other kids who you were friends with who may or may not have been adopted, and you were like, "What would you do? Would you continue this project? Would you go get a third? Because I really need to know." Like, did you have a network that you could kind of ask their opinions to?
no, I didn't have a network of friends like that. That no one could relate that I was adopted. There were just others that I met along my life's journey that I would touch base with them casually because you don't know what their feelings are necessarily.
Mhm.
And a lot of them for the most part were again 50-50. They don't have any inclination to go search and find because they feel like they were left, or they just are not curious anymore. Where I was, and I was of the nature of that time to be, I'm mature. I could hear rejection if it was going to come. I just want to have the story. Do I need a relationship? No, I haven't had one in 50 years up to that point. What's just not going to be any different. Could something
Were your kids kind of pushing? Was your wife, you're like, were they on the same boat with you? They're like the same page. They were like, you should find out because they kind of wanted to know too.
They were encouraging. My youngest son wasn't really, indifferent, as to whether or not, because that's a totally different now, familiar family structure than he's used to now. So he doesn't know. My oldest son is definitely curious about it and says, go forth, you need to go see, like he's all for that journey to go the quest. My wife was really supportive, because it's something unheard of. Like, what are the chances? It's a needle in a haystack. I have no name. I have no photograph. How am I going to find somebody? And well, I don't know. So I'm just that's been my whole life. It's been persistent and just keep trying. And that's what I had the mindset. I'm not going to give up. If worst case scenario, I meet some remarkable people along the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you decide to take this third DNA test, and that's what kind of opens everything up.
Yeah. So prior to that, that third DNA test, I had been down on two separate occasions. And on one of the last occasions that I was there, there was a doctor that I met, and he felt that it was his father that perhaps delivered me. And we're having this great story, but he doesn't have any detailed information. Of course not. I think it's a conspiracy, Blue. That's all I think. No one wants to help me with this. Here I got DNA, but he's going to proceed to tell me a story. At that time, he's going to 30 years ago, there was this man that came from the United States that spoke no Spanish and had a little picture of his mother and went door to door for weeks looking for her. And now I'm like, wow, that's amazing, and did he find her? And absolutely he found her. And now I'm a little bit more perturbed now because I'm only going to be there 3 days. And I have weeks.
Yeah, you don't have a picture.
Here I am, got modern technology, and it's still not benefiting me. So that's when I decide to take the third DNA exam. Well, of that third DNA exam comes two women that are on there that say they're my first cousin niece. Now my head's spinning. Now niece means that it's a daughter of a brother or a sister that I have. Holy cow, this is crazy. Now I carefully manuscript an email to them, asking them for a phone call so that I don't sound weird.
So this is before ChatGPT could formulate an
no
email.
one can help me, man. And I'm just taking a chance that they're going to respond.
Yeah.
And they do, both of them. And they both suggest to me that I should speak to their father. And no problem. Please tell your father to call me. Well, weeks go by. And then I get this phone call, and I don't know who it is, but it's this person that's on the other line. And he says, I think I'm your brother. Now, there's no words to describe the feeling you have. So I'm trying to be very calm and cool because I'm not auditioning here. I just want to say, tell me why. And he proceeds to tell me that when he was 30 years ago, he spoke no Spanish. He decided he was given up for adoption, that he wanted to go to Mexico, cross over into Nueva Casas Grandes with a little picture of his mom that he had and go look for his mom. And he's all the time he's saying our mom. And he goes, I said, did you find her? Knowing full well that he did, right? And he's like, yeah, once I found her, I asked, do I have any brothers and sisters? Well, yes, you have a sister in Mexico over here, another brother and sister locally with me. And then you have one brother born in 1965. And I think he's in Las Vegas, Tucson, or Phoenix. I'm not sure. Well, at that point, I'm convinced because he's the guy in the story, And I told him, I was like, do you know this one particular doctor? And he goes, yes, I know that name. He helped me when I was there, kind of thing. And I was like, you're the guy in the story I heard about. So without any more, I wanted to make sure. So I provided them DNA exams to confirm. And all of it was confirmed. At that point, now I'm going to go back to Mexico for a family reunion kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back and meet those siblings that are still around and dig deeper as to maybe who my mom and dad were with their help. Mm-hmm. And remarkable. Univision is a big television network, and they wanted to follow me and go in, and I didn't allow them to do that, but I allowed them to come with me to Tucson, Arizona and walk around. And then meanwhile, I got on another plane. It was fantastic, because I got not only to understand that I have 5 brothers and sisters, that who my mother and father were. They were both passed on, but to know their story, to meet their relatives, to meet it was fulfilling for me. And to this very day, I can understand certain things. Like my dad died young, but he was a professional rodeo, a bronc rider. And okay, so athleticism, the outdoors, things like that draw me to certain things. Like, God, that kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm making it sense.
Yeah.
I'm making this stuff happen. So, yeah, at the very end, fast forward, of course, for a lot of things, but at the very end of my journey, it turns into like an Oprah Winfrey show. The hotel that I'm in, the hotel general manager closes the hotel lobby. He wants me just to have this moment with all of them, and they go around the room, each person, to try to say something about what this means to them, and so on. So one of my sisters has a daughter, and she's like about 25 at the time, and she says, I never forgot that every single holiday that we had my whole life has always been, don't forget you have an uncle. So we don't know where he's at, but he's somewhere. And she's like, and that was you. And it's like, you have no words to say at that time,
Well, I think I know the answer, and that being that, would you do it again? And then secondly, would you advise or promote people to try to find their birth parents if they were in the same situation that you were?
So I personally would do it all over again. It's a journey and a quest, but it is different for those. You have to be mentally prepared to hear no, rejection, not being wanted to be found. You have to be willing to hear that. And you have to be mentally ready. If I was in my 20s, I wasn't going to be ready for that. I was not ready to hear any of those things. But because of that stage of my life, I was totally prepared, because you're doing it for yourself. And that's really, I think, what life kind of comes down to, as we started our discussion about Robert Frost and the two paths along a journey here in the forest. I decided to take the one less traveled. It has always given me something different, a unique experience. Some call it taking a risk. It's the journey. I just know that in everything I've ever done, whether it's basketball and you're winning a game, it's the journey that you remember. You don't remember the end. Even though that I have now 5 brothers and sisters and know the story of a mom and dad. It was the journey that gave me all these unique people to meet. And to this very day, they're still close friends, but the journey, and now I have a sense of understanding where I came from, and can conceivably, feel at ease in life.
Well, and you're making a difference in their lives now, and you're creating these new relationships and knowing where you're coming from. And I mean, you wrote a book about it, right? To take your
Yeah.
shot and find that needle in that haystack. And so not only was it an experience that you experienced with your family and then the family you didn't know, but now it's a story that you share from stage and that you can talk about with my audience and the audiences that you speak to. And it's like giving hope to people to not live with resentment, and to sometimes to take that path that's that's less fortunate, the ones that
Yeah.
that have more thorns and peanut butter on the walls, and you just don't want to touch
Right.
it. Sometimes that's more enjoyable, and you're going to get more out of life of taking the path that's
No question.
less chosen, for sure.
Yeah, I've written 2 books. So the first one was Take Your Shot, Make Your Play. It was a way to get me introduced into the world of trying to help people motivationally wise, to take a chance at certain things. This second book that I wrote is called Shooting for the Impossible. That's what I did. That's the story of me taking the chance of going to search for my parents. It is without question a story of a needle in a haystack. Imagine if you're a listener going, I have no name, no photograph, and I'm adopted, and I want to find out, where do I begin? You take a step, you go somewhere with it, and you let, might close off, but you just keep searching. And that's bringing it full circle back. Like, I had a purpose. I knew exactly what I'm looking for. I stayed persistent in it, and I was passionate. Every person I met, I made sure they're going to be a friend of mine, that they understand really why I'm looking. No ill intent whatsoever. I understand the difference of times. Uh, I'm just curious, and I want to know. And it's made all the difference, Blue. I mean, that's essentially what it's kind of comes down to. The adopted self, the life of an adoptee. Many think it's why they ask the same question over again. Why was I given up? Imagine yourself as a parent, as you are, having to have that choice right now, that you have to give your child up. It's not something
An easy
lightly.
decision?
No. I mean, did she want me? Did my parents want me? Of course. Could they provide the life that I had? No. It would be a totally different way if I survived at all. And that's the decision that they made, that they could not feed me to keep me there.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, who knows what would have happened. There's a high probability, wouldn't have made it. But when I talk to people, I was like, my story is I'm the beneficiary. That's how I look at it. I benefited from this adoption, and it changed. I got this chance to meet people all over the world, and use basketball as a tool and try new things and become a Nidan in karate and you name it, because I decide to take these chances in life and go look for things.
Well, I love that message, and I love the direction you're going, John, and I want you to continue making an impact on people. Where can people find out more about you and possibly find your books?
Yeah, the books are on Amazon, so it's pretty simple. My last name is easy to find. And I'm also on all social media platforms. Instagram, I'm at Coach Stignon, and LinkedIn and Facebook and others are just my first name and last name spelled out.
Well, I love that. And I love your message. And thank you so much for giving me a chunk of time today and sharing your message. And I hope that somebody takes something about the persistence and choosing the path less easy to go down sometimes. And
Absolutely.
your message hits home, and I love that. And thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today. And keep doing what you're doing, John. And I cannot wait to meet you in person.
Likewise, Blue, you're a dear friend of mine from now on, man. I hope we talk once a week, brother. I can certainly help you with whatever you wish.
I love that. Okay. Well, I love a good coach on my side, and you're a coach. So I'm going to take that. John, have an awesome day and keep making a difference in this world, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything, man. I really appreciate all your time and your listeners for just spending time listening to a story that perhaps changes their lives too.
Love it. Thanks, John.
Thanks, buddy.
If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.